The Secretary General and the staff shall not seek or receive instructions from any government or any other authority external to the organization. They shall refrain from any action which might reflect on their position as international officials responsible only to the organization. He closed the Morocco-bound copy. The Secretary General and the staff, he intoned. He removed his glasses slowly. He looked up. Me, he said. And you. A weight seemed to settle over the room, a moment of pure silence. And at that moment, we were not merely young, ambitious men and women embarking on careers as international civil servants. At that moment, we were acolytes, novitiates of a secular order, receiving final instruction from the high priest of our faith. A final warning. We would be leaned on. Attempts would be made through us to subvert the UN's high ideals. Then the Secretary General raised a hand and smiled somewhat equivocally. "Good luck," he said. "We're going to be late," Patrick O'Connor remarks unhappily. We have just emerged from a 20-minute session in the local Starbucks. Patrick over 2 light grandes, telling me his woes. "You know," he says, continuing his complaint as we walk, "it's unbelievable. This thing's been on the cards, how long? Years. And here we are, the whole jamboree set to start. For Christ's sake, they'll be voting on it in 2 days. And still no one knows the numbers. Tell me, Sam, really, what kind of cock-ass thing is that?" This question, in variations, is one I have been listening to every day now for at least a month. So I incline my head but offer no comment. And as we push our way through the sightseers, Patrick goes on delivering his latest thoughts on the subject. The main matter of debate at Turtle Bay, in fact, for over a year. The elevation of the Japanese to a place at the top table of international diplomacy. A permanent UN Security Council seat. What Patrick refers to in private moments in his inimitable Australian way as the NIP question. Patrick O'Connor, the UN's Under-Secretary General for Legal Affairs, has been my boss for almost 3 years. I have become accustomed to his moods, but this morning his disgruntlement has gone into overdrive. He sweeps a hand across his forehead. He sets his bulldog jaw tight. He does not look happy. Patrick, as everyone in the Secretariat knows, has fallen out of favor lately with the 38th floor. Breaking with his usual practice, the Secretary General no longer calls Patrick to his side at the onset of any crisis. He has ceased to find Patrick's speech-writing talents indispensable. He does not invite Patrick back to his grand Upper East Side residence, as he once did so often, to shoot the breeze and drink whiskey till all hours of the night. And everyone knows, too, that the reason for Patrick's fall is the vote just 2 days away now on Japan. Following Patrick's advice, the SG has forced the pace on the vote, driving it to the top of this year's General Assembly agenda. Patrick, in a rare miscalculation, was certain the Japanese had the numbers. In fact, they still may. But the whole thing is so delicately balanced now that no one can call it, and if the worst should happen, if Japan loses the vote, then the SG, after all his efforts, will look like a fool. Which is why Patrick has been kept at arm's length from the 38th floor. Should the need for a scapegoat arise, Patrick is shaping up as ideal material. "Speak to Hatanaka," he tells me as we bump together in the throng. "Get him to ease off this crap he's talking, trashing his own bloody country. Who does he think he is, anyway, running a private campaign? Is that what he's paid for?" I concede reluctantly that Toshio Hatanaka has probably overstepped the mark. "Overstepped? Christ, the way Hatanaka's playing it, there is no bloody mark." Patrick shakes his head in disgust. You hear the latest? He sent out a letter to all the senior delegations telling them how a Security Council seat's incompatible with the Japanese Constitution. Can you believe it? It won't change the vote. Says you. Unfortunately, he has a point. Toshio Hatanaka, committed pacifist and 25-year UN veteran, has become more involved than he has any right to be in this. Now I ask Patrick exactly what it is he wants me to tell Toshio. Tell him he's out of line. Pull his bloody head in. You two seem to get along, yeah? We emerge from the crowd at the head of the steps and pause. Even Patrick is momentarily silenced by the sight. UN headquarters in all its General Assembly opening day glory. Sightseers line First Avenue both ways. A motorcade of black limousines slowly snakes its way into the forecourt of the Secretariat building, the 39-story office tower where Patrick and I both work. Delegates are strolling across to the garlanded entrance, the rainbow colors of the African national costumes shimmering in the long line of gray suits. Everyone shaking hands, smiling, 185 flags flapping in line. There is undeniably a real sense of occasion. Inside, the delegates and the presidents, the prime ministers and the foreign secretaries, various senior UN staff are gathered in the delegates' lounge, everyone busy seeing and being seen. The moment he spots James Bruckner, the U.S. ambassador, Patrick moves in swiftly to press the flesh, leaving me alone by the wall. Mike Jardine, deputy head of security here at the UN, weaves toward me through the crowd. He finishes delivering some command into his walkie-talkie, then turns to stand at my side. He tugs at the collar of his jacket and straightens his tie. Fun day, I venture. He tilts back his head. Shit fight of the year. All we need now is the friggin' ticket tape. There is not the trace of a smile on his pallid face. His hooded eyes continue to sweep left and right as he tells me that we appear to be down one delegation. Who? The Japanese. You ask me, they're just holding back for the grandstand entrance, the Streisand thing. Get here last, everyone's going to notice. He makes a face. Jesus. And I used to think I had problems down at the hall. City Hall, he means, a reference to Mike's old job of running security for New York's mayor. I ask him if he's seen Toshio Hatanaka. He shakes his head. But I've seen your girlfriend, he says. When I give him a look, Mike grins. Then someone reports a red over Mike's two-way. Mike groans. Red? I say. Code, he tells me. Something the security guards don't want to broadcast. Backing away into the crowd, he tells me to enjoy the big party. This seems to be my cue to mingle, so I do, drifting through the crowd, nodding pleasantly to the half-remembered faces from some committee meeting last week or last year, talking briefly, moving on. Unlike Patrick, I have none of the politician's instinct for working a room, so no one I speak to here is a name. Mr. Windrush, says Jennifer Dale, sidestepping a Pacific Islander, planting herself in front of me. What brings you here? The food? You're too early. The drink? She holds up her nearly empty plastic cup. Too late. Glancing over her shoulder, I tell her I seem to remember something about an agreement we had. She looks around. Yeah, well, some places are so public they're private. Jennifer Dale and I, as Mike knows, and some others have guessed, enjoy a relationship that goes well beyond the professional. But she's probably right. There is nothing wrong with a senior bureaucrat like me from the Secretariat exchanging pleasantries with the U.S. Ambassador's legal counsel at a gathering such as this. So, gesturing around, I ask if she's made many new friends this morning. Everybody wants to be my friend, Sam. That's one of the joys of being an American. I'm an American. Your Secretariat, she reminds me, grinning. That puts you firmly in the twilight zone. There's a stir over by the door. The Japanese delegation finally arriving. I guess you heard we got a letter from Mr. Hatanaka. I heard, I say. We're considering a formal protest. Bruckner not happy? James Bruckner, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Jennifer's boss. The U.S. has been lobbying for decades to get Japan a permanent Security Council seat. Bruckner has been spearheading the campaign all this last year. Ballistic, Jennifer tells me. And I tell you, Sam, ballistic's going to seem mild if the Japanese lose. Bruckner will be out for scalps. Her drift is clear, but I ask anyway. I'm meant to pass this on to Toshio. We'd be much obliged. Then our conversation slides into a lighter vein. We start comparing notes on the celebrity guests. Jennifer has a gift for verbal caricature, which she uses now, skewering several of the big names with words, imagined anecdotes, solely for my entertainment. She is dry and ironic and really very funny, a quality I completely failed to notice when I knew her the first time around, which was, incredibly, almost 20 years ago now. We went through Columbia Law School together. Correction. We enrolled the same year and joined the same study group our second semester. After that, our paths diverged. Yet, when she appeared in the doorway of my office 6 months ago, I recognized her immediately. Her honey-colored hair is a shade darker, dyed, I have since learned, to disguise the first wisps of gray. And her face, lined at the corners of the eyes, is somewhat fuller, but otherwise the years have treated her well. In many ways she seems to have grown into herself, become the formidable presence she always promised to be. But formidable or not, and despite her nonchalant air, the upcoming vote on a permanent Security Council seat for the Japanese has her worried. If the Japanese win, it will be a political coup for Bruckner. Every big hitter in his party, from the president on down, will be endorsing him for next year's gubernatorial in New Jersey. And if he makes governor, Jennifer Dale, naturally, will be along for the ride. If the Japanese lose, however, Bruckner's political star and Jennifer's prospects will be on the wane. She makes a face, then lowers her voice to tell me how Bruckner's calling the numbers. 140 for the Japanese seat, 20 against, and 25 abstentions. Comfortably more than the two-thirds majority required for the Japanese to get the seat. I keep my expression blank. She is fishing for our numbers. She wants to know how Patrick sees it. No comment, she says. None, I answer, that she would like to hear. She smiles into her glass. She tells me that she has a suite at the Waldorf tonight. Suite 12. She says, lifting her eyes to give me a look that is unnaturally and very intentionally direct. Ah, I say, the only thing I can think of. 11:30, she suggests. I study her a moment, my heart skipping lightly, and then I hear myself say, 11:30's fine, before we immediately turn away from each other. A minute later, the glass doors swing open, and people go pouring out of the lounge toward the General Assembly Hall. I'm just about to enter when I'm stopped in my tracks by a cry of, "Sam!" Turning, I see Mike Jardine charging over from the escalator. "Save your ticket for next year," he says grimly. "We just found a frickin' corpse in the basement." It is Toshio Hatanaka. Mike warned me long before we entered the room, but the shock when I first see Toshio's familiar face staring up lifeless at the ceiling staggers me. My heart thuds, my throat swells. I have to stop halfway across the room and steady myself. The sight is truly awful. Toshio is on his back on the floor. His legs are twisted, his arms spread wide, splayed open like a crucifix. His tongue lolls loosely over bluing lips, and on the crotch of his pants there is a dark stain, and a smell. The bladder and bowels have clearly opened. But worse than this, far worse, are his eyes. Always clear, strangely innocent, they